When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be like my father, and his friends were all police officers. I wanted to be able to help people and just be the good person, as society would say. In my childhood, I had a pretty good upbringing. A lot of family time, very close family with my aunts and uncles. We spent a lot of time four-wheeling, snowmobiling at the camp, a lot of weekends with my dad and my uncles. No real trauma when I was younger, but when I was about 17 years old, my father started to have an affair. I knew about it. I'd go with my father to his girlfriends and feed her cats. I remember it was around Christmas time and my mother was at home on the couch crying. And when I walked in, she asked me if I knew my father was cheating on her. And I looked her in the eyes and told her I had no clue, and she was crazy. From that point on in my life, I started to use marijuana and mescaline. I had that under control for a while. I was into sports. Then me and one of my friends stole 2 vehicles and went joyriding. We were racing through these back roads, and I was in front, and my friend tried to pass me. And when he tried to pass me, he hit the shoulder of the road and hit a big tree. I can still remember the sounds of everything that was going on then, and my friend ended up passing away in my arms. From that point on, my life went out of control. I started using intravenous drugs. This went on for 10 years maybe. I was in and out of jail, just didn't have a care in the world. This went on for many years. My early 20s, I ran into a girl that I used to hang out with. Things moved on really quick. She got pregnant and we had a son. When my son was born, I made these promises that I was gonna change my life, clean up, which never happened. I kept using for about 5 years, and again around Christmas time, it was Christmas Eve, I was at my father's house and my son was sitting in my lap and he looked at me and asked me why I didn't love him. From this point on, I knew that I had to change my life. So I started looking into rehab programs in New Brunswick. My mother told me about the Village of Hope, it's a place I did not want to come to. I believed in God, but I didn't believe that I had to focus all my time on God. And so I decided to keep looking for other programs. Every door was closed. God closed every door. I ended up at the Village of Hope. I did the 10-month program. I graduated. I stayed for transition, and I felt like God was telling me to stay for servant leadership training, but that's not what I had planned for my life. So I left, didn't stay in contact with the people I should have, and within 2 to 3 months, I was relapsed, and it was probably worse than it's ever been. I went through my relapse for about 6 years, I'd say. In and out of jails became the everyday life for me. That's all I knew. Figured I could move to Niagara Falls and clean my life up, and that's what I did. Ran from some charges in Moncton and ended up getting in trouble in Niagara Falls, so I decided to come back to Moncton, where I'm from. When I got back to Moncton, the RCMP were waiting for me, and I was arrested and thrown into jail. When I was in jail, I was looking at 8 years for a bunch of break-and-enters. I went to court one day, and when I came back, there was a guy who was in my cell. It was his first time in jail. I noticed he was carrying his Bible, and he was emotional a lot of times. And I would give him the lecture of, men can't cry in here, you have to be tough. We started to pray at nights together. I actually taught him how to journal in there. One day I seen him crying on the phone out in the unit. And when we got back into our cell locked up, I told him that, you can't be doing that here. And he just shared with me that he was on the phone with a lady from the Village of Hope. And right then, right there, I knew that that was God calling back out to me to fulfill the purpose I had before. I remember sitting in the jail cell with my friend, and I was going to court the next day. And we both got on our knees and prayed to God that if He'd get me out of jail, that I would fulfill my promise and come back to the Village of Hope. The following day, I went to court, and the judge asked me why I was there, and I laughed, and I said, "You're the one who put me here, so you should know." I was released that day, and I walked out the front doors, but the last thing on my mind was fulfilling my promise with what I made with God, and I started to get high again. This went on for about 3 days, 4 days, and it was crazy. My mind, I just lost my mind. On December 22nd, 2019, I finally gave in, and I picked up the phone and I called the Village of Hope. Since being back at the Village of Hope, I have graduated the 10-month program. I've also just about completed the servant leadership training part of the program, and I plan on staying for staff training. Since being here, God has blessed me and done tremendous works in my life. I didn't speak to my mother since my last program, or my sister. I've spent Christmases with my mother and her husband, and that has nothing to do with me. It's all through God's grace. My sister and I still don't speak, but I believe in God's timing that we will be reunited. So with my son, I have been blessed with an amazing ex-girlfriend. She supports me 100%. Her and her spouse support me. My son comes up here. We are making good memories to get rid of those bad memories that I created. None of this is possible on my doing. It's all in God's grace. So when I was younger, I believed that I was going to be a police officer because I wanted to help people and give back. Now I believe that God made my purpose is to help people in addiction, get them out of the life that I walked in for a long time. I believe that I'll be able to do that here at the Village of Hope.